You know how you've had moments of existential dread?
Every day, yes.
Uh, uh,
With each passing grain of the sands of time through the hourglass, I lament over my impending doom.
hey, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite podcast. Welcome to the LaserComb podcast, episode 4, the podcast where we come through random episodes of your favorite TV shows with a fine-tooth laser. I am one of your hosts, NeoCal.
And I am one of your other hosts, Christopher Siege.
Christopher Siege. Today,
Yes.
we are reviewing The Undergrads.
Yes, underGRADS, a classic Canadian TV show from the early 2000s.
April 22nd, 2001.
Yeah, I got a lot of fond memories of this show.
I have a lot of
Which
fond memories of the show too. When I looked up its air date, a little like fight or flight mode switched in my head when I realized that this is about 20 and a half years old,
Yeah,
where I was an adult to watch this
yeah.
when it was on TV, and that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I I didn't watch this show during its original airing back in
To be fair, neither did I.
back
Yeah.
in mid 2001. When I watched it was in like 2003 or 2004 or so. Teletoon
Same.
Teletoon used to show this series every night at I think 10 or 10:30 p.m. and then they would air
Somewhere in
like
that block.
and then they would air Clone High either before or after it. I can't remember.
You're goddamn right.
Um but it was Monday to Friday, and that's particularly amusing to think back upon because the show only has 13 episodes,
And
and
yet,
they would air them in order every night, 5 nights a week, so like twice a month, pretty much. Like uh, we'd go through the entire cycle of the show. And I was watching this. I wasn't doing a lot with my life at that point, so I was just getting stoned and watching undergrads
and Clone High.
and Clone High, playing wrestling games, listening to
Oh, fuck yes.
listening to death metal,
Yeah.
eating giant bowls of pasta because I weighed like 260 pounds. That that
Right.
that that was where my life was at in 2003, 2004 ish.
You're a little bit older than me.
Yes,
I was
I was already living on my own at that point too.
I was living with my auntie and uncle in in LA. Uh no, out of all places, North Island. I
I
know.
was gonna say, wait, what the
Horrific.
fuck? You lived in LA?
No, I did some
Your
things
auntie and uncle in Bel Air?
that I did some things, dropped
You,
out of school multiple times,
yeah.
was in precarious situations that I won't comment on air. Anybody that's part of our Patreon probably know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about because I've talked about it multiple times, but
Right.
things were not good and I was not in school. And so I moved in with my auntie and uncle, uh, not in Bel Air, in North Island, and went back to school and was a grade A student. But the existential dread when you live in a town where riding bikes and doing drugs is kind of like the only thing for young people to do, or work. Um,
Or if you live in Victoria, that's what a lot of people our age do too.
or that you have all of these things to do, but no ways of doing them because you're high all the time. But yeah, I
So
2000.
instead you steal Haagen-Dazs from grocery stores.
Hey man, is there a bigger thrill than taking on the siege? Trying to
Uh,
see how many Haagen-Dazs containers you can hold in both arms.
I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on this show, but I work at a grocery store. I'm the frozen foods manager, and the neighborhood that we're in, where we're located, is a couple of blocks away from like Crack Central in Victoria. So
Actually, the worst.
yeah,
Yeah.
people like literally like shooting up, like smoking meth and shit, like right out in the open, like just
Oh, shamelessly. Yeah.
yeah, just
Right
shamelessly.
outside their tent,
Yeah,
right by the road.
yeah. So and they frequently come into the store and try and steal Haagen-Dazs or yogurt or things like that because druggies, especially people who do like really hard drugs regularly, their bodies are in constant need of carbohydrates. So they crave like really sugary, really fatty foods. So they come in and try and steal it, and I got to take them down because they ain't stealing my ice cream.
Not on my watch, motherfuckers.
Not on my watch.
And of course, they don't steal like the president's choice, like 4-liter bins. They go for the fucking top notch shit.
Yeah, they go for the very sweet, very high calorie, expensive Haagen Dazs, Ben and
Ben
Jerry's.
and Jerry's, yeah, bastards.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a tangent, but I just wanted to. I've talked about that at length on some of our other shows, but I don't know if I've actually mentioned it on this show.
So there we go.
There we go.
And I don't really remember what where I even was with that. Something about Siege tackling somebody, but today we're tackling undergrads.
Yeah, so undergrads was created by a guy named Pete Williams. The show is loosely based on his experiences in college. He dropped out after 1 year.
He dropped out after 1 year. Well, he dropped. So it was weird. I don't know how familiar you are with the tale, but he was going to college. He had been loosely interested in animating his whole life. And he had been subscribed to something called like animators inside animation or something. And so this is 97, right? Like,
Okay.
yeah, the internet exists, but it was okay. And these magazines kind of gave him, he felt like the edge like he needed. And he'd always enter these animation contests and never win anything, win a t-shirt here or there. He was home for winter break and his mom was like, Pete, why don't you enter this contest? It's for MTV. And he looked and he's like, oh, $5,000 and a chance to like pitch the show to the network. Sweet. And the rules were you had to animate it and it needed to be voiced, and that's it. So he won. Despite the fact it was a nationwide contest, he won.
Wow.
He had found out later that only 15 applicants for the contest. There were only 15 applicants. And
that surprises me. I feel like nowadays there would be way more applicants.
Thousands.
Like,
yeah. Thousands. And a little while later, he had found out that he's the only one that followed the rules. They were either like voice auditions on cassette tapes or hand-drawn animations with no sound whatsoever.
Wow. No
Default.
Yeah.
But apparently he had gone in and like talked with them, and they were interested in the show, and they're like, hey, come back in the summer and we'll work on something, right? And they were particularly interested in him because he edited, he animated, and he voiced the characters. He didn't do any of those things really well, but because he did a little bit of all of it, he was like, oh, we need to get this guy.
A for effort, in other words.
Absolutely. And so they wanted to grab him. And he's young, right?
Mm-hmm.
He worked there in the summer and worked on the show, signed away his life. Oh, wow, that's tons of money. Sure, you guys can have the rights to the characters with no time limit. Something he regrets to this day because, as you know, in 2018, I'm wearing one of the t-shirts from the underGRADS Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie's been funded and the script was finished in January. Woo! So it's happening. And
well, that was 3 years ago. You said 2018. So Where is this
was when the
movie at this point?
Kickstarter. So in 2021, the script was finished and approved, and the Kickstarter backers have seen 3D like animation tech. So they're using a computer to animate the characters.
Very common nowadays.
Very, very common. I'm stumbling over my words. They're using a computer program, kind of like a video game, to kind of like point and click and set up the scenes and move, rather than doing it like as drawings that are then like animated like frame by frame. So they're working on a system where they can like move them and they naturally like will kind of like move or sit up or that kind of thing.
So like kind of like what Archer does. Like Archer kind of looks like traditional animation, but it is computer generated,
Yes.
and they're able to just like animate the characters in real time.
In real, yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I get what you're saying.
they've released one of Rocco like standing out of like a chair and like dancing, and I was like, man, this looks really good. And part of me was worried that it would like change the style of it, but no, it's going to be anybody trying to watch the show, good luck trying to find anything over like 480p.
Or even find it to watch legally anywhere. At least in Canada, it might be
so
it might
hard.
be it might be available to stream somewhere in the United States, but we are located in Canada, so we had to acquire access to this show through uh
Legal means
not
completely.
not streaming means, I will say.
Yeah.
Look,
It's on YouTube if you can stand watching it in like 180p or whatever it is.
one thing I will say, and this is something I feel very strongly about, is I'm not a big fan of piracy and I don't advocate for it.
I'm with you. Yeah.
However, if something is not legally available to stream or purchase, and there's no other way, like legal means of actually consuming a piece of media, then go hard.
Well,
Like,
what are you going to do? You're not hurting anybody at that point.
yeah.
You tried to give someone your money for a product. There's nobody to give your money.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one.
So what's the show about? underGRADS is about this guy named Nitz, who is just Nitz and his group of 3 friends, Rocco, Gimpy, and Cal. Whom, if you're watching this on video, the Cal on this show is wearing a T-shirt of the Cal from underGRADS.
Hey, best buddy Nitz guy, I'm wearing a new T-shirt.
Hanging up, yeah.
Yeah. I forgot until I watched this with you. They're all such shitheads.
Yeah,
it's not just Nitz is normal and the others are shitheads. Nitz is a shithead too. Just they're all shitheads in different ways. Hanging up, yeah.
So the 4 of them have been like friends since like elementary school, and now they have gone off to college, and all of them except for Nitz and Cal are going to different campuses.
Yeah, Gimpy goes to Techers Tech. Rocco goes to, I think they just call it Rocco's University. He's in a fraternity. They don't even know what school he goes to.
Yeah, yeah.
And Cal and Nitz go to State U.
Yeah. Nitz is kind of an everyman type. He's
the shy, doesn't drink, doesn't do anything exciting.
Yeah. Got lots of personality, but he's kind of chill for the most part, except when it as it pertains to his main love interest of the show, Kimmy, yeah. This beautiful like redheaded girl that he's just like absolutely crushing after, and she's a hippie
and a ditz.
And she barely knows he exists.
Yeah.
Like she's always like perfectly friendly and sweet toward him, but like she beyond like, and like I have always gotten the impression that's just because that's who she is.
Yeah.
Like she's just friendly and pleasant.
Yeah.
So she's friendly and pleasant to Nitz, but beyond that, she has no clue that he even exists.
No, there's one episode where um he's like, "Oh, hi, Kimmy. Don't you remember me?" And she was like, "Oh, that's right. You're Nitz. You sat behind me in Mr. Blah blah blah's class." So she vaguely recollects, but that
Yeah.
was the extent of their interaction. She's 1 year older than him, and they were in one class like a couple years ago.
Yeah. Bunch of interesting supporting characters. Nitz befriends a girl from his school named Jessie.
The
Uh,
cool punk chick.
yeah. Her group of friends, which we're actually going to get introduced to in this episode.
We're fucking friends.
Yeah,
Brody.
yeah. I'll have more to say about that later.
Okay.
When we actually get to meet
What
them.
is it? Brody is like a an insufferable movie junkie. He needs to point out every flaw and like detail about like a movie.
Yeah.
Right. He's that guy.
Yeah.
Kruger just smokes and like shit talks everything.
Curses all the time. And then their other friend Dan just laughs at everything.
I can get behind it. Yeah. I like Dan.
I actually I'll just say it now. Jessie and her group of friends, I would love to hang out with those people.
Yeah. Yeah, they seem like my crowd. Whereas, isn't that okay? I noticed something watching this episode, episode 4, which is, what is it called? Just called Friends? New Friends.
New Friends, yeah.
It makes Jessie and her friends look more fun to hang out with than Nitz and his friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And indeed, like the crux of this episode ends up being that Nitz kind of has to choose between hanging out with this new group of people or hanging out with his old group of friends from high school. And honestly, like the show doesn't really make a great case, at least in my opinion, for why he should continue to, like, why he should pick the old friends over the new people.
Well, indeed, the conflict of the show is that his friends forgot his birthday.
Yeah.
And this is the episode where we find out Nitz's real name is Parker Walsh.
Not Sean.
not Sean.
It's a plot point later on in the episode. Speaking of the episode, do we want to get into talking about this one?
Yeah, let's jump into it. How does it start off? It's Nitz's birthday. So he wants to call everybody and let them know, hey, it's my birthday. But as he's calling them, they all kind of like interrupt him with their own stupid, petty bullshit.
Well, and indeed, like what's going on during all of this, like right at the beginning, is Gimpy. Gimpy is in his room. His little like sidekick dude, Mump, I think his name is. little short fat ginger kid with like big Coke bottle glasses is like playing a video, is like he's like trying to hack something. He's got
a VR rig on and he's like Lawnmower Man hacking something.
Yeah, he's doing some hacks on a computer and he overloads some shit and like the computer explodes and he gets taken away on a stretcher and they're like, "Oh, what were you doing?" And Gimpy is like, "Oh, we were trying to hack into the Ben and Jerry's mainframe to change like Captain Kirk chocolate whatever to Chewbacca
Captain
Chunk
Kirk
or something
Crunch
like
to Chewbacca chocolate chunk."
Yeah, yeah, there it is. Which already I'm like, okay, is this going to be a Star Trek versus Star Wars thing? And indeed. Although I find it funny, they're like acting like Mump is dying, and the EMT is like, he's just got carpal tunnel. He'll be fine.
And yet he's still wheeled away
on a stretcher
to a hospital on a stretcher. And he turns around and he's like, "All right, you heard him. Back to work, man." And all of his like cronies, all the other people in the dorm, they turn their back on him and like retreat to their rooms.
Yeah.
He's losing his loyalty to the men, which is the subplot, the B plot of the episode. Is it? Yeah, it's the B plot.
Yep, totally.
Starts with it, but it's still the B plot. So sorry, yeah. Then the opening goes, which I think is a song called "The Click" by Good Charlotte.
It is, yeah.
The show was originally pitched by Pete Williams as The Click, and MTV was like, "Hey, that's cool and all, but why not just calling it underGRADS?" And he was like, "Okay." So,
not gonna lie, I think they're both kind of weak titles for a show, to be honest, because like
it doesn't sell it.
Yeah, no,
neither of them sell it.
Neither of them like really tell you anything about the show. Like nothing makes the show stand out. It doesn't tell you anything about it. I think one of the like here's another good example of that. I think one of the best sitcoms of the past 20 years is a show that was on ABC in 2009 called Better Off Ted.
Right.
The show is absolutely brilliant and hilarious. And I'm not even a big sitcom person, but that show is like A plus. That title though, Better Off Ted, that's the reason why the show didn't last. Like what
I've never watched it.
You hear a title, Better Off Ted, what does that tell you?
Better Off Dead? Nothing.
Nothing.
The main character's name is Ted.
I mean, yes.
So what you're saying is they shouldn't have called it Nits and Friends.
I don't have a better title for it off the top of my head.
Neither do I.
But if I thought about it, I'm sure I could come up with something. But
we could. We're good at that.
Both The Click and underGRADS, they're both kind of nothing titles for a show.
And it sounds like you've watched this as much as I have. It's an underwhelming title for given how easily rewatchable the 13 episodes are.
It's a very easily digestible show. It's also very entertaining. Despite being from 20 years ago and having some like crass humor, it still feels kind of good-natured.
It's good-natured, and like you said, it has crude or even crass humor at times. I was surprised that it held up. Like, look at how aged it is. Like, he's using that big, bulky fucking bubble Mac, right? Like, they still use phones and fax machines. It's kind of time capsule, this show.
The theme song is by Good Charlotte.
There you go.
Nothing screams 2000. Nothing is more 2001 than that.
No.
And using Good Charlotte as the theme song to your show.
It's not. Yeah. You know that Pete Williams loosely based the characters off himself and his friends. His friends didn't really like that.
Yeah.
Like Gimpy's name is Justin in the show. His friend that he's based off of is named Justin. And his buddy is named Cal. Like it's very poorly disguised, exaggerated characterizations of his friends. They got over it, but they weren't too thrilled.
From what I've seen, that is the norm more often than not. When someone like writes a show or writes a movie and bases characters in it directly on people that they know, it doesn't usually go over very well.
Pete Williams was a teenager. He didn't fucking do anything. He had never even drank. Like, you know how like there's the whole episode of where Nets doesn't drink, he doesn't like drinking, and he goes to Rocco to teach him how to drink. That's the main character. He never drank till he went to till his like second year in college when he dropped out.
Wow.
Yeah. He was a good boy.
I cannot relate.
Nope. Real quick sidebar. I was fine with like drinking, tried it a bit at 14, 15, 16, blah, blah, blah. Never drank, just, at bush parties and that kind of thing, right? Moving in with an alcoholic at 16. Let me tell you, didn't drink for 3 years. Didn't have the effect where I wanted to drink. No fucking sir. Didn't drink at my grad.
Wow.
Just to make a point. Yep. And
All
then
right.
into college, I was like, okay, now I'm fine. I've proven my point. He can go fuck himself.
Yeah. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Speaking of fuck that guy, Rocco interrupts Nets, calling him to tell him about his birthday, to tell him that he's really busy punching himself in the face.
After just watching Fight Club 23 times. Which is funny because me and my partner have a podcast called Based On, where we talk about movies
Yeah.
based on books and the books that they're based on. First episode was about Fight Club. And we talked at length in that episode about how a lot of people, a lot of dudes around this time watched the movie Fight Club and kind of took the wrong lessons away from it. And
Yeah.
this kind of made me laugh because this is that.
One thing
And
I noticed about
and I straight up, like, back when I was younger, I knew people who were doing things like that.
and trying to start a fight club.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody knew those kids. One thing I noticed now about the show that I didn't really appreciate when I was younger was that everything cringy on the show is supposed to be. Rocco is supposed to be that stupid guy that everyone knows that tries to start a fight club.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
whole Star Wars versus Star Trek thing going on here. They're supposed to be despicable, like, wretches of human beings, like incorrigible nerds that that you don't want to have to relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And by lightly making fun of itself, by not having characters make fun of it, but by the characters being bad themselves, I enjoy that. I enjoy that a whole bunch.
So Jesse walks in to Nitz's room and is like, "Hey, you should come hang out with my friends, because, like, don't be lame and hang out with your stupid high school friends." And
Yeah.
he's like, "No, like, we're probably going to be doing something." And indeed, it's because, like, in years prior, like, they always have something planned for Nitz on his birthday, and his birthday is coming up. So he expects to be busy, so he turns her down.
Yeah, they always remembered his birthday. You grow up with friends, right? You all know each other's birthday, but it's college. Like, what, Cal somehow, this is the part that I actually laughed, and I never caught this when I was in school. Cal answers a phone on a landline, on a landline,
Out in
while
the
he's
forest.
playing. He's out in the forest playing paintball, and he pulls a phone out of nowhere
I mean,
to talk to Nets. Or
to
is
be
it a
fair,
cell phone?
it's a cordless phone.
It's a cordless phone.
Yeah, it's got an antenna sticking out the top.
You're
It's a
right. You're
cordless
right.
phone. But this part is quite amusing because so yeah, Cal is out in the forest playing paintball, and he's, like, been shot up, and he's playing paintball with, like, a couple, like, attractive young women. He's been shot up, and he's like, "Ooh, look at the pretty colors, guy." And Nitz is like, I can't see you, Cal. We're talking on the phone." And Cal responds with, "Communication. Yeah. Hanging up. Yeah."
I don't know if they intended for Cal to be one of the funnier characters just through his dialogue, but, like,
Oh, he's definitely a comic relief character.
what the stupid I only think a teenager could have helped design this show. Like, the dialogue, like, if you look at the script for the show, you're like, who? Like, who is thinking this funny? And because it's so weird, and just sometimes the jokes are awkward and don't hit, but that makes them funnier. Like
Yeah,
communication. Yeah. Hanging up. Yeah. Like it just I like you said, it's kind of like a more wholesome type of comedy.
uh, in a way,
Or
yeah,
wholesome, not wholesome, harmless. It
yes.
it it tries its best. Yeah. There's a flashback sequence here. What is it? There's like a oh, when Mump met Gimpy.
Okay, so
Okay, here we go.
yeah, here we go. Um, Listeners, I'm a Star Trek person, and
Uh-huh.
I quite frequently mock Star Wars. Not because I have any problem with Star Wars
It's just
in
fun.
general. I actually like a number of the movies, and like
Yeah,
I like a
same.
few of the I like a few of the games. That Mandalorian show was all right. I think it's a little overrated personally, but
I loved Force Unleashed.
yeah, I loved KOTOR. Um, but one of the reasons why I on various podcasts shit talk Star Wars is a lot of it has to do with Star Wars fans just being so goddamn insufferable, especially nowadays.
Uh-huh.
Um, so what happens here is like the main antagonist of this episode, who's like wearing a Star Trek uniform,
Spud.
Spud, number one. He is uh, he makes the weird line of like, oh, what is our greatest joy in life? And they're like, oh, to follow the Prime Directive. And I'm like, that's that's a weird thing to derive joy from. But all right.
Yeah.
And Gimpy comes in and and I'm going to paraphrase, but he's basically like, isn't the Prime Directive not interfering with the development or advancement of species? And Spud is like, uh-huh.
I
And
see
he's
where you're
like,
going. Continue.
yeah. And Gimpy makes the argument that, oh, by getting these men to follow the Prime Directive, you are in turn violating the Prime Directive itself. And this like overloads Spud's brain. And I'm like, that is a fucking stupid argument because these people are already part of his, like, he's not interfering with the development of like another
He's not
culture.
introducing new information to the culture that could hurt their advancement.
Exactly. Like
It's supposed to be stupid.
these these kids are all part of like the same group.
In the first week, yeah. So in the first week, Gimpy takes over as their kind of like nerd leader
Yeah.
by defeating Spud, and he says,
Nerd leader standing by.
"Nerd leader, we're going down." And he's like, what does he say? He's like, let me tell you about the wonders of the Force. And they
Yeah,
all take
because
off their elf ears and
yeah, this Gimpy's like stupid argument here just overloads Spud and he like runs away and they're like, "Oh, how did you do that?" And he's like, "Jedi mind trick. Come, let me teach you the ways of the Force."
and so then the that dorm becomes Star Wars fans.
Yep.
They just throw away all the just right into the garbage, all their Star Trek stuff. You can't be a fan of both.
Nope. That's the rules.
That I don't make the I don't we don't make the rules.
Nope. Um
Yeah, so that was his flashback. And what
yeah,
do we cut to the cafeteria, or where are we?
Mump is in the hospital, still in the hospital with
And there's a
carpal tunnel.
webcam. There's a webcam set up. I don't know why, in Mump's hospital room, just pointing at Mump from across the room, and he's
Yeah,
just like sitting there
yeah,
in bed.
Just so Gimpy can watch him.
Yeah. I never thought about how stupid that was till now.
It's his own crystal ball, essentially.
Yeah.
A joke that me and Cal regularly make on about Beast Wars on our Beast Wars podcast. Too much energon.
And now we see it everywhere.
Yeah,
We can't unsee it.
where we're supposed to be seeing like footage or whatnot of something going on, or but it's literally just the footage that uh that the viewer has seen, or it's like, how is this character even watching this? Is there like a disembodied camera just floating through the sky? Like, what's going on?
Ever since the revelation of Megatron and his crystal ball, I see that everywhere. Just characters watching a screen or being aware of something that you thought only the viewer was. And because the viewer was aware of it, you don't really question it. But then when you stop and you analyze something and you're like, wait, how's Gimpy seeing Mump? We know he's in the hospital, but how's Gimpy watching him through his computer? Webcams, man. Crystal balls and webcams everywhere.
Yeah. So now we're in the cafeteria, and Jessie is hanging out with her friends, and Nitz shows up, and
The
the
lunch lady brings out a cake.
brings out a cake, and it says "Happy Birthday, Sean." And they're like, "What?" Jessie's like, "What? We didn't know it was your birthday." And this is where Nitz explains that he never had to tell anyone because his friends always just knew. And
He's like,
then
you're not in high school anymore, dipshit.
yeah, and then what's his name? The like shit
Ruger?
talking guy.
Your mom doesn't know your own fucking name.
They all laugh. They're like, "Oh, it's not fun. Oh, that's not. Shut up. That's not funny." Yeah, it fucking is.
Yeah, Jesse's trying to be like, guys, that's not funny, because Dan points like right in his face and laughs. And they all stop for a moment as like Net storms off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you said, Kruger's like, yeah, it fucking is. And you know what? Pretty funny. I didn't realize how sensitive Nitz was until rewatching this recently. He's kind of a sensitive boy, isn't he?
Uh, yeah. Also, that's a weird thing to be really upset about because it's like, one, who cares what name is on the cake?
Eat the fucking cake.
You're still getting a free cake.
I think that was hilarious.
And two, like it's obvious someone just goofed.
Yeah.
Like cakes got switched or
Wherever
someone just
Sean
put...
is, he's getting your cake. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh well. The fact that you got a cake, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, take a picture with it that says Sean, man. Happy birthday, Sean.
Yeah. Well, and nowadays that's like I would just like take a selfie with it being like
Sean
Sean
for life.
yeah, Sean here.
It's your boy Sean.
It's your boy. It's your boy Sean on his birthday, yo.
Happy 17th. Oh, yeah. So, but no, not for Nitz. Nitz sad. Nitz sad boy. He walked away.
So back at Techerson Tech,
Oh God. Yeah, right.
Gimpy like discovers that like the entire dorm has been converted to Star Trek stuff.
Spud has used this moment of weakness and disloyalty from all of his men to seize control of the dorm again and bring them back to the ways of the Star Trunk.
Yeah. Which this is quite unsavory behavior from someone who fancies himself a Starfleet officer. I will just
yeah. Say. Yeah. He
Yeah.
would never pass. He'd never pass Starfleet. Just saying.
No.
No, absolutely not. But what happens here?
Jesse and the guys show up at Nitz's apartment and bring him Sean's cake. And they're like,
yeah.
Jesse's like, yeah, we were gonna eat the cake anyway, but we decided, you know, it's your birthday. We'll bring it here and eat it here with you.
Yeah. So happy birthday, loser.
Yeah.
So what happens? Oh, and back at Techerson Tech, the nerds fucking storm Gimpy's room and like start collecting his Star Wars memorabilia.
Those savages.
Yeah, savages. And I'm like, hey, hold on. You guys are taking this a little bit too far.
You're crossing a line here.
And something truly horrifying of the worst of torture happens. Not only do they collect his memorabilia to presumably burn it or do whatever with it, they, like a Clockwork Orange, they like pry his eyes open and strap him to a chair and force him to watch Deep Space Nine, I
Yeah.
was a little bit shook, because that would be truly horrific for me.
Deep Space Nine has a lot of fans amongst Star Trek fandom. Um,
I It's
I,
not terrible.
I,
I'm just not a big
I, I,
fan.
I'm just prefacing here.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, Deep Space Nine has a lot of very devoted fans. A lot of Star Trek fans will call it the best episode or the best Star Trek series of them all. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this show, I'm a big Star Trek fan. I have been since the late 80s. Um, Deep Space Nine's boring, man. I,
The most
I,
interesting episodes are about the bartender
yeah,
and his nephew. I,
I try. I tried to get back into because I did a full series watch through of the original series and Next Generation last year, and I was like, okay, well the next logical place to go with this is to do Deep Space Nine. Couldn't make it through the first episode.
oh,
Couldn't make it through the first episode. It was fine until it got to some like weird shit of like Cisco like talking to some like extra dimensional beings and like being on a beach with his like dead wife, but she's actually like it's all just like floofy like metaphysical shit, and I'm like, no, can we just go back to like Cisco like shit talking Quark? Like, can we go back to that, because at least that's interesting.
yeah.
um
Yeah, like I
yeah,
said, when the most interesting episodes are about the bartender and his nephew,
yeah.
maybe you like it because it's a drama. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's not because it's Star Trek.
Yeah,
Yeah,
valid point.
like I said, it's fine, but it was whenever it came on TV, I would watch it for a few minutes, figure out if it was one of the good episodes, and if it wasn't, I'd just peace out.
Mhm.
Whereas at least with Voyager, and a lot of people don't like Voyager, at least with Voyager, I could watch the whole episode through.
A lot of people don't like Voyager. Um,
I do.
I do like Voyager.
I know,
I,
shots fired.
even more shots fired, I will go to bat and die on a hill defending Enterprise. I just started watching through that again recently too, because this is the, you know what? I think it actually, at the time of recording, it's the 24th of September. I think it might have been 20 years ago today when you know what? I'm looking it up. This is now a Star Trek podcast.
Now Star Trek podcast.
Star Trek Enterprise. I know it. Oh, September 26th, 2001.
Ooh.
So we're 2 days
Oh
shy
my
of
God.
the 20th anniversary of the premiere
So
of Star Trek
no way.
Enterprise.
So undergrads and Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah.
Or sorry, was it just called Enterprise?
It was called Enterprise for the first 2 seasons, and then they
Right.
added the Star Trek to it in season 3
They are
and season
both
4.
they are both they came out in very similar times.
Yeah. And
They're both about 20 and a half years old. Man.
yeah, and I will like I said, I've been watching through Enterprise again lately, and I I still love it. And you know what? Even more shots fired. That theme song is fucking great.
Come at him
Cause
at Laser Comb
yeah,
on
at
Twitter.
Lasercomb on Twitter, and I will tell you that I have faith of the heart. Anyway, tangent
Speaking
over.
of Star Trek nerds, no. Yeah, the Star Trek nerds try to they try to brainwash Gimpy.
Yeah.
Before we see if they're successful or not, we switch to Brody, the cinephile. Is that even a word?
Yep.
Okay. Talking about how he knows somebody who knows the best boy on like a production of a movie that's not out. That's his shtick.
He knows someone who is friends with someone who is the best boy on like
Right.
someone's
On a show that hasn't been out yet.
Yeah.
And what is it? They're in a bar just playing pool. And Jesse's like, hey, Nets, is this always what you do with friends? Just like quietly sit there and be boring? Eventually he warms up to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does she do? She's like, you don't need to worry about these guys. They're easy to get along with.
Uh,
Brody is an insufferable movie nerd. Kruger swears a lot. Dan laughs. All you need to know.
yep. They sound like a good lot to me.
Yeah. And they're playing pool, having a good time.
Nitz gets out of his precarious situation by challenging Spud to
Oh,
a
Gimpy.
duel. Or yeah, Gimpy, sorry.
Right. He luckily doesn't have to watch Deep Space Nine because he grinds his teeth and you can see like a vein pop up in his head. He's like, I challenge you to duel like Kirk does in that episode.
Against the Klingon in that episode, and Spud like takes the bait and it's like, episode 72 or whatever. I know it will.
I know it will. Choose your weapon. Shma. That's what he fucking says throughout the episode.
And
Shma.
he challenges him to a death match in Quake III arena.
Yeah. At first they try other things like broadswords, but they're geeks that like apparently can't even lift up a sword. So that goes away. What's the little bit that they do there? They pick up swords. They both drop them. They pick up pistols. They can't even hold them with both hands. And then they try karaoke, but like the microphone's too heavy. So he's like, this is what we'll do. Quake. And I'm like, fuck yeah. Wow. How old is this? But keep in mind, like this was all written and stuff like in the 90s and it premiered in the 2000s. So Quake even then was kind of old.
Not really. Quake 3 Arena came out in like 99.
That's what I mean. They're just playing Quake. Right? Like
the logo that comes up at one point, the Quake logo that comes up
oh,
on
you're
the computer
right.
screen, it's the
Quake
3.
3. You're right. I'm seeing it now. The red logo with the 3 points converging.
Yeah.
I see now. Yeah. You'll have to excuse me, listeners. I'm watching this in like 180p.
Yeah. In DivX format.
God. Yeah, so it's a team battle. It's a team deathmatch. But Gimpy doesn't have his cronies.
Yeah, so he needs the clique to reunite and take down Starfleet.
And yet he actually there's 2 times in the episode where they actually say the clique, referring to their group of friends. The show was not called the clique. But they still refer to each other as the clique.
Also, whenever I hear the clique, I just think of I think of Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, X-Pac.
Fucking X-Pac, yeah.
They were the like this wasn't even an on-screen thing. They were known as the clique backstage.
Yeah.
Because they all hung out, they had each other's backs.
They were bros.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, one of the earliest times of quote unquote kayfabe being broken on screen was after I think it was after Scott Hall was became known that Scott Hall was leaving to go to WCW.
Right.
After a match, there's like very famous video footage of them like all like hugging in the ring.
Oh, that's what it's from. Right.
Yeah. And
this is when I still watched wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like a very early example of kayfabe, which is basically like the facade of the storyline in wrestling, like pretending like everything that's going on is real. That's called kayfabe. It was one of the earliest examples of kayfabe being broken in front of fans.
Yeah. And those are humanizing and touching moments rather than bad moments. There are bad moments, but that's for our wrestling podcast. And if you're listening to this in a future date beyond 2021, LaserComb probably has one of those by then.
Probably.
So what's happening here?
Probably an AEW podcast.
Yeah. Gimpy's trying to recruit the clique. And they're like, okay. But Nitz is like, yeah, I'll think about it.
There's like a training montage of like Gimpy being a drill instructor and them like doing push-ups, and Cal is like mastering his joystick.
You must master your joystick like a fisherman must master bait. And Rocco's laughing at the word joystick, but when Gimpy delivers that line, he like laughs and
Masturbate.
falls out of his chair. Like a
That
fisherman must master his bait or something like that.
that is definitely a line written by a teenager.
That a 19-year-old wrote that for sure. And the weird thing is he's training them to use a joystick, but they're not actually practicing in Quake. He's like
Also,
teaching them how
why
to use a joystick.
why would you use a joystick in Quake?
Oh, you get annihilated.
Yeah.
So like
You're not playing fucking Ace Combat here. You're playing Quake.
yeah, he's a little out of touch on that one there. And
Yeah.
they're not like flight sticks either. Like you had said, like Ace Combat, they're like almost like Atari joysticks. They got like a button on the top and like a handle, and that's it. Maybe like a button on the pad.
I'm gonna guess that Pete Williams probably wasn't much of a gamer.
Or there's a joke in here, like that they're just trying to be funny and show how dumb they are. I don't know. It feels like he wasn't much of a gamer. Board games, on the other hand, such as Risk, that's a different story.
So Cal is in a bathroom stall, like a fisherman mastering his bait.
I love that. Gimpy in his drill sergeant uniform is looking for Cal, and he opens up a stall, and the camera just shows Cal in the bathroom, like sweating, going, yeah, guy, I'm mastering my joystick. And the camera pans down to insinuating he looked like he was masturbating, but he's just in the bathroom stall with a joystick not plugged into anything, like feverishly mashing buttons and moving it around. And Gimpy just like backs up and like quickly leaves the bathroom. It's a dumb joke, but I appreciate shit like that.
So to move things along, Nitz is having a good time with his new group of friends. Things aren't going well for Gimpy and the rest of the clique against Spud and his cronies.
Yeah, there's like a friends montage.
Yeah,
with Nitz and his new friends.
And so Gimpy like QuickTime calls Nitz, which I'm like, did anyone ever really like communicate this way back then?
No, and it's very weird because like Gimpy's webcam, his screen will just pop up randomly on Nitz's computer. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, it's like they're Zoom calling, but in like 2001. People didn't communicate on computers that way, really, back then.
Not really. And not only that, like he doesn't accept it. It's kind of like there's an open line constantly available between their computers.
Yeah.
And that's so that Gimpy can just magically appear, much like Rocco or Cal can, so that they can converse.
So the gist of it here is that the clique need Nitz's help. They're like, oh, we have this game tomorrow night. You have to come. You have to come. But Jesse also invites Nitz to do something tomorrow night as well. And Nitz actually like points out to the rest of the clique here, like, oh, you forgot my birthday. And they're like, Gimpy's like, oh, no, we didn't. We were tomorrow. We were planning your special birthday party. Here, this joystick here. And he like grabs the joystick that
the Cal has.
The Cal has, and was like, we got you this joystick. It's your birthday gift.
And Cal's like, but that's my joystick, guy.
No, it isn't. It's for Nitz. No, that's my joystick, guy.
Hey, and then Rocco's like, what does Rocco say?
Oh, and Cal is like, oh, you're trying to trick Nitz. I don't think he'll go for it, guy.
And then Rocco's like, yeah, I don't know. Nitz is pretty stupid sometimes. But like they're talking to each other as if Nitz can't hear them.
Yeah, yeah. And so he like puts them on mute, doesn't hang up on them, puts them on
Oh,
mute.
mutes them.
Yeah,
Doesn't hit a mute button, drags the volume
the
bar all
volume
the way
button
down.
down. Yeah. And so Jesse shows up and like invites Nitz to go do a thing tomorrow night, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'm free." And she's like, "What about your friends?" And he's like, "Oh,
Fuck
they're
them.
dead. They're
They're
they're dead."
dead.
And she's like, "Really? Because I just saw Cal earlier." And he's like, "Yeah, he's dead. They're all dead. Anyway, let's hang out
Yeah,
tomorrow."
he's dead. They're all dead. Oh, yeah. And then it cuts to the game. Nitz isn't there, and it shows their little avatars and their like stats. And Gimpy's Quake name is Major Blood. Rocco's is Killed by Death 87, and Cal's is Cal Gore.
Al Gore.
That's kind of fitting.
An inconvenient death.
An inconvenient death.
So
They suck.
yeah, they suck. There's a recurring joke of Rocco finding he's unarmed because he's out of ammo, but he has his
This
chop
slappers, it
animation.
reminds me of GoldenEye 64
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you have the slapping
yeah,
animation.
yeah, and he finds it incredibly amusing because it looks like he's jerking off, and
Hey guys, look, it looks like I'm jerking my gherkin.
uh,
Doesn't he shoot Cal? He empties like all of his ammo by killing Cal in the game.
maybe.
Yeah, I think something like that happens.
So back to Nitz and Jesse and her friends. They're going to see a screening of a movie called, what is it? What does he call it? He calls it The Thick Blue Line.
The thick blue line. Yeah.
There's and the one dude is like, "Fuck Robert Redford." Which, the joke there, if anyone's wondering, there was a movie that came out in 1999 called The Thin Red Line, which was a war movie, and this is a obvious parody to it. But Nitz is watching the movie, and he imagines him and his group of friends as the like soldiers in this movie, and they're all like they're all like pondering like existence and whatnot in a very rote manner, and
Yeah.
they all
They
start
all
like
die for each other and being
they,
like, that's what friends do.
that's what friends do, and it's really heavy handed.
It's great.
I was kind of rolling my eyes at it earlier. I'm like, oh god.
It's heavy handed, but like it's funny because their limbs and stuff are being like blown apart. It's like, don't worry, that's what friends do. What's the final scene? One of
They're
them with no arms is in the shower, and they're like, that's what friends do, guy.
uh Brody, the movie buff guy, was uh there's a bit, and like even my partner quotes this bit quite regularly. There's a
Really?
bit where he's like there you see that guy in this scene? That scene he's wearing a watch, but this scene he isn't. Continuity error, continuity error. I watched the movie good.
Yeah. I watched a movie good. I laughed. I
Yeah.
laugh at that every time
Yeah,
because
my partner and co-host on Based On, which I mentioned earlier, Krista, she actually references that line quite
I
a bit.
love
And anytime there's
awesome.
a continuity error in something.
I watched a movie good. I love it.
So Nitz like throws his hands up and is like, "Sorry guys, I really like hanging out with you guys, but I gotta go hang out with my dumb friends from high
My
school."
immature friends beat a bunch of nerds at a video game.
Yeah. So things are going bad for the clique
For
in
Team
Quake,
Gimp.
Team Gimp. And then out of nowhere, Nitz shows up to save the day in the game,
In the game.
and he's brought all of his new friends with him, and I'm like, that's not how death matches in Quake work.
People don't just mysteriously show up and join one side of the game.
Yeah, you can't.
So,
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Also, there are player limits.
and not only that, they join. It seems like they only have one life, like it's a hardcore match,
Yeah.
but they join like 20 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Whatever. And they look like themselves. Whatever. It is what it is.
Whatever. They saved the
They
day.
saved the day.
Nitz is like, you're all clear, kid. Let's blow this thing and go home. And again, I'm rolling my eyes.
A clear Star Trunk reference.
Oh, we want to go, if we want to go like to that level of it. Earlier, there was a sign on a door that said blah blah stardate 2064.1 or something like that. Stardates don't begin with twos; they begin with fours or fives.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's purposefully.
No, they probably just didn't know.
Oh, you think that they didn't know? I assumed they were just
that is a very like deep like level of like Star Trek nerddom to actually know that. The only reason
Amazing.
I know that, to be honest, is because I listen to a Star Trek watch through podcast regularly where that got pointed out to me, and I'm like,
okay.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Okay, fair. Yeah, so Nitz actually does Nitz and his friends are light. Well, Gimpy is a lot, but Nitz and the clique are light Star Wars fans. Not heavy Star Wars fans, but they're all on the side of Star Wars.
Yeah, they save the day, and then there's a scene that's the episode ends with a scene that's an homage to the end of the first Star Wars of them like all getting medals. And again, I'm rolling my eyes over here. Right down to Mump actually like wiggling around and making R2D2 sounds. And then the episode ends with Star Trek or Star Wars style credits.
I purposely like getting things wrong like that that all the time.
Yeah. That was the episode.
That's the episode.
Stuff I like. All the Star Trek and Star Wars stuff like was pretty insufferable for me. I gotta say.
For me, there's a certain cringe that comes with watching 2000s era cartoons that is funny in of itself. And I've already mentioned this, but I feel like you're not supposed to think it's cool. It's supposed to be insufferable. But
actually,
there's
on that note, real quick, I forgot to mention Jesse mentions that like them and their friends like hanging out on a Friday night like playing Quake is kind of cool in a like dorky like nerdy I'm never gonna get laid ever kind of way. And I'm like, that is a very like 20 years ago mindset to have, because let me tell you,
the she winks at him when she says that.
The world has changed.
Yeah, she winks at him when he says that, so she's not too serious.
Geek shit is what sells these days.
Yeah, it
all right.
certainly do.
Closing thoughts about undergrads. We're kind of running out of time here, so
yeah. Closing thoughts about undergrads. A lot happens on each episode, which is nice. There's always like an A and a B and sometimes like a little C plot going on.
Always, yeah.
That good point. Yeah, always. But it's fast moving, and I find that the pacing of each episode for this was satisfying. Like I rewatched all of the episodes. This isn't one of the stronger episodes.
No, it is not.
No, there's a famous Risk episode. There's a lot of like better episodes, but if you're listening to us or watching this, like check it all out. There's only 13, and I think it aged well. I think it's like funny. It's the kind of thing that plays in the background really well. But also, if you're analyzing it and combing through the dialogue, there's a lot of cleverness in the writing mixed in with the juvenile writing, and I like it, man. It's a blast from the past.
Yeah, lots of fond memories from this show. Not a big fan of this episode in particular, but there's still stuff I like. There's stuff I like
Yeah.
in every episode.
Yeah, the characters in of themselves around the plot are just amusing.
All
Right? Like
right.
Gimpy's gonna gimp, Rocco's gonna rock, and Cal's gonna slurp. So
That should be the tagline for the movie.
movie.
Yeah.
Gimpy's gonna gimp, Rocco's gonna rock, and Cal's gonna slurp.
Yeah.
Well, best buddy guy, I think it's time we wrap this up.
Yeah, let's start winding things down. That has been episode 4 of the Lasercomb podcast, where we comb through random episodes of classic TV series with a fine-tooth laser. For next week, I put up a Twitter poll just to let my leave it up to the followers on the Twitters to see what we watch coming up. And so 4 choices. I let the poll run for a full week. What ended up winning was The Tick. So,
and I have before, I didn't. Every week up till now, I have voted for The Tick. But in Christopher's most recent poll, I was like, I'm a co-host. I'm not going to vote in his polls. And then The Tick won, baby.
And then The Tick won. So we're going to be talking about The Tick next week. Let's go to numbergenerator.org and figure out which episode we're going to be watching. There were 36 episodes in total. So
I'm stoked for this.
One random number is between 1 and 36. And here we go. 22.
22.
So that will be season 2 episode called Ants in Pants. The Tick checks himself into Captain Sanity's superhero sanatorium, letting a large colony of ants capture the other superheroes and lock them into a giant people farm.
I don't remember this one.
I don't remember this one either.
This show was wild.
The show was wild.
It's very much for kids. Recently, I've tried to go and get back into it. It's for kids. That's okay.
I remember when the show came out.
It's still funny.
I remember when the Tick first came out on DVD back when I was in my early 20s. I picked up the first season, and I felt like it still held up at that point.
Okay.
But who knows? I might feel differently now. So, yeah, we'll be back next week with that. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB. We're starting at the $5 and up tier. You get hours every week of preamble audio where we kind of just talk about whatever before we actually start recording the episodes proper. There's also a $10 tier that gets you some other stuff, and a $25 tier, which gets you a t-shirt, gets you a monthly commentary track, everything from the previous tiers, and you can also pick a show for us to watch on this podcast. So if you want us to do what we did here today about any show of your choosing, go to patreon.com/lazorcomb.
So they get to pick any show as long as it's off. It's finished. It's not currently running.
Not currently running, and it has to be narrative based, so no reality shows or game shows or anything of the sort.
We will not watch like season 7 of Survivor.
Nope. It was an actual suggestion that I got from someone. So
wait, what? For Survivor?
That was a not through Patreon, just through word of mouth. That's why that's what prompted me to say no reality shows. Good. Only narrative based.
But that also means no Price is Right.
Yep, no Price is Right, no Jeopardy, no Wheel of Fortune. What are you going to do? Them's the rules. I don't make them up. Well, I actually do.
But you get to choose the show, but the episode is random.
Yeah, but the episode's random. So patreon.com/lazorcomb. Follow us on social media. Facebook.com/lazorcomb, spelled the same way. Follow me on Twitter @lazorcomb. Again, spelled the same way, LAZORCOMB. Cal, where are you on Twitter?
Neo, as in from the Matrix, Neo_Cal with a K. Come and say, hey, guy, how's it going, best buddy?
Yeah. Check out our other shows, Too Much Energon, where we talk about Beast Wars, Alphanumeric, where we talk about Reboot, based on, where I mentioned it earlier in this show, so I'm not going to bring it up again. We also have a monthly show, War Planets, where we talk about Shadow Raiders. That's actually just about to wrap up pretty soon here. So, and more to come. We have some new podcasting ideas brewing, and if you're curious about what those may be, go to Patreon, because we might have alluded to it in some of the outtakes. Anyway, that's been this week's episode of the LAZORComb podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.
The Dougler out.
To another dimension.